Good evening. Welcome to Cut Deep, Season 5, Episode 8. I'm your host, Cindy Roseanne. The concept of Cut Deep was developed with a focus on encouraging the wider public to think more in depth on issues that plague us, encouraging persons to have a voice and to use that voice to invoke change. Cut Deep is an interactive platform cutting through the noise and political rhetoric. It is raw, uncut, challenging you to think critically. What do the issues mean for us? What part do we play? It is a platform that will move the Virgin Islands toward unified, integrated success. I want to welcome back Blossoms Florist as our support sponsor for Cut Deep. I want to thank those of you who continue to support this platform from behind the scenes. Thank you. Cut Deep is a multi-platform show covering social and political issues in the BVI. Its viewership continues to grow, reaching more than 6,000 viewers weekly. It cuts across demographics and it captures an international audience. For advertising opportunities, email cutdeep@gmail.com or call 284-440-3234. Supporters may also donate to Cut Deep and the issues it supports through our ATH Mobile 284-440-3234 or through cash or checks. Donations will be kept confidential. Send words of encouragement, comments, leads, and social concerns to Cut Deep's email. Thank you to our viewing audience and supporters for watching and sharing our content. That is the best support of all. We have two amazing women in studio with us tonight. We'll take a quick break and come right back to introduce them. It is tea time in the studio.
The win.
What the hell?
I'm freaking out.
Is about these people.
It's always a pleasure coming to you live and direct from the
What's poppin'? What's really good?
Davis has won it for the Lakers.
Welcome back. It's Cut Deep, Season 5, Episode 8. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you're just tuning in, you're right in time. I'm your host, Cindy Roseanne. We are happy to be back in studio with a new exciting season. I want to welcome back Blossoms Florist as our support sponsor for Cut Deep. I want to thank those of you who continue to support this platform from behind the scenes. Thank you. If you're just joining in, thank you for tuning in and for sharing your time with us tonight. As mentioned before we went to the break, we have two amazing women in studio tonight. We have Mrs. Shaina Smith-Archer and Mrs. Dawn Corea-Leonard. I'm so delighted to have them in studio tonight, and we want to talk about social issues, political issues, just broad issues that may be affecting the territory, and you know, this is open conversation as usual. So before we go any further, I always do the, can you introduce yourself in a way that nobody at all knows you? I'll start
Just
with
in
you.
case?
Yes, I'll start with you, Dawn.
Oh, well, Cindy, first of all, thanks for having me. I think everybody knows me. Most
Maybe.
people. I am Dawn Corea-Leonard. What do you want me to say?
I mean, just who you are, where you've worked.
Okay, so.
Just a general of, you know, who you are. Are you nervous, Dawn? That's so weird.
No, I'm not nervous. It's, you know. Okay, so Cindy, I'm a recent retiree from the government of the Virgin Islands after serving 25 years in various capacities. I'm a mom and a wife. I am a proud BV Islander. I think that's what I would like to say. I am.
What was your portfolio at the
Just before I left?
Yeah.
I was the health and safety coordinator
Okay.
within the Department of Human Resources.
Okay.
I remember
Mrs.
that.
Smith-Archer.
Oh, don't worry, I'll put it in my intro. Well, Cindy, thanks first of all for having me. I think this is my first time.
Yes,
so
it is.
you returned the favor because you were on my show a few months ago
Yes.
earlier this year. So that was great. But for those who may not know me, My name is Shaina Smith-Archer. I am a project manager by trade, engineer by education. As Don said, I'm a patriot at heart in terms of my Virgin Islands community activist, political activist, just staying busy, I guess. But yeah, I'll stop there.
Right. I have 8 magic questions here tonight. I always have a list of questions. I never really get past question 2 because by the time we're into question 2, 10 questions came out of question 1 and question 2. And I like to let the conversation just, take its own path. But I'm going to try my best. So,
all right.
This weekend, I think, was a special one. And before I get there, I want to congratulate those that came out and the organizers of the 1949 Reenactment March on Sunday. I want to thank those of you who came out and watched online as we did the protest on Monday on the celebration of the 1949 March as well. Thank you. I think this weekend we celebrated a special bit of BVI history. I wanted to ask each of you if you can just talk to me about the 1949 March, what it means to you. It was the march, I think, that set up our governance structure as it is today. Some 70 years ago. So how do you feel about such a rich legacy as a Virgin Islander?
Well, I'll start. Well, it was a very proud moment. I'll start with that because I was to both events. And I think it's long overdue, first off, in terms of celebrating with or without a holiday. Because I think one of the things that for us, and especially our generation, having not been taught these things in school, especially in high school. And for me personally, I remember when I realized that how much I didn't know, that I actually went and took the VI history course. So this was something I actually learned back in 2015, that it was about reenacting or reinstating the Legislative Council versus us being governed directly out of Antigua through the Leeward Island Federation. And it was like, wow, this is such a big deal. So even 2 years ago when we celebrated this, well, we didn't celebrate the 70th. I was kind of disappointed because again, these things should be more than just, there's a speech and there's a mention, but that we really need to engage the public, and especially for the younger children, to make sure that they learn these things in and out of school through the participation. So I was really happy to see that, and definitely made the effort to be out there. And understanding that the second march, I don't know if people got confused in terms of saying that, it was 2. And the second one was more of a protest. But again, that march in 1949 was a protest.
It was a protest.
And it was a protest against poor governance of the country. And specifically now, one of the asks was that you have a locally elected government. And, for us as Virgin Islanders, we shouldn't miss that. We should always carry that and understand that it's something where you always will have to safeguard.
And I think you were
moments.
trying to make that really clear too in your speech yesterday, Shane. If I think about it now, this is the second time you're mentioning it, I want people to be clear with what you're saying. Because what you're saying to us is that good governance should be kept, whether it's an outsider infringing on or rights or right to govern, as well as if it is a local setup government that is, and I want people to understand that that's what you're saying, like bad governance is bad governance, no matter who it is that's doing it. Correct.
For me, when I first heard of it, this was many, many, many years ago. I may have been in high school. And back then I remember being so proud of us as a people, standing up for what we believe to be an injustice and standing and marching to make a wrong right. And so when we did make it a holiday, I was really thrilled about that. But commemorating it to reenact the march, and I agree with what Shaina said. We should have been taught this in high school. It shouldn't have been something we just heard by the way.
Right.
We should have been taught this in high school. Some of us would not go to HLSCC to get that in education. And so it's a start. I think we can do more to capitalize on it because it's such a rich part of our history. And all legislative process, to build on it. So I was happy about that. I am always of the opinion that as a people, we must have a say in what happens in our country.
Right, right.
You know, I'm very big about that, and I am pro that. You know, so that match for me was very significant for
Yeah.
us as a people,
Yeah.
and I was happy that we were able to, you know, do something to commemorate it, so that the younger ones can understand. But we need to do more, though, Sydney. We need to
Yeah.
do more so that you know they truly understand and
Appreciate,
appreciate the significance of that match and what it meant for us as a people.
Yeah, I agree, because we celebrate so much of other world history that, yes, some of it impacts us here, but we don't celebrate our history, and that builds that pride
Yeah.
that we're looking for. It encourages us to preserve
Yes.
what we have, and I think that's where we're really making a big mistake. My children, they understand everything I'm doing. If I'm doing something, they're gonna understand what I'm doing. If I'm talking politics, I brought them to the march with me on Sunday and on Monday. Although they were whining, oh, we're gonna go march again. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna go march twice.
Good
And-
exercise.
right? But you know, and I explained to them the importance. And I saw my son yesterday, the 16-year-old. He said to me, he was talking to one of his friends. They have a group chat, and he was talking to them, and he put up a picture of being at the march. And so his friends started asking him,
Okay.
where was that?
So
what
the
was it
conversation
about?
came out
And that's what we need to do. And I think
Yes.
that conversation came up on last week's show too. We were actually talking about where we fell back in taking the young people forward with us.
Yeah.
For example, financial services, they don't understand what's going on there. They know it's there, but what does it mean to us? Because when you look at it, you kind of go out to work, and they don't really know where
Yeah.
you're going, what
Yeah.
you're doing, what your job is. They just know you're going out to make some money. You bring back home a
Yeah.
check, and you know they ask you for something, they get what they want. Oh, mommy, you got a check today.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very important that we keep them educated and informed with
Yeah.
us in everything that we're
Definitely.
doing. What is your take on the BVI as we stand today? It's a two-part question, and where do you see the BVI in the future? You know, as we reflect on Mr. Faulkner, and as we look forward to where we want the BVI to be as a people.
Yeah. Go Don.
Cindy, that's a very thought-provoking question, but as citizens of this country, it's important for us to ponder such questions and engage our young people in these kind of conversations as well, because they are the future, you know.
Yeah.
I turned 50 the other day, and I still can't believe that I'm 50, but yeah. By a lot of measures, that's oldish. And
I don't agree with you, but go ahead.
yeah, I know. My mom didn't live to see 50, Cindy. You know, that's put
Wow.
things in
Yeah, okay.
perspective. You know, so no, I don't feel old. I don't consider myself old. I'm just saying, you know, it
A lot
can
of
be
time has
considered.
passed.
A lot of time has passed. Thank you. Put it milder. But we are at a very pivotal place in the BVI. You know, we've been hit by 2 powerful hurricanes that impacted us in significant ways that we still haven't fully recovered from. We're going through our second pandemic, even though this one is the one that hit our shores. It's still a second pandemic for
Yeah.
us in terms of modern history. And the impacts of that are being felt by you know, a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, it's hitting hard, and our tourism industry has been impacted. So you asked what I would like to see. I would like to see BVI in a more robust light, again, economically. You know, I would like to see our young people on the fore, pushing, you know, their businesses and being supported in their businesses, not just by what we say.
Yeah.
We say a lot of things.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
put a lot of good
Lip
policies
service.
in place. I didn't want to say that. But we need to be more intentional about it,
Right,
you know,
right,
about
right.
getting these young people in the right places, connecting them with the right people, you know, because they are our future. They are the future of this country. And where we are right now, we've been hit.
Yeah.
We've been hit. We have I guess I could say, unfortunately, the COI is in country right now, and that's highlighting a lot of things that we need to improve,
Yeah.
no doubt about
Yeah.
it. And it might not be welcomed, it might not be something that we would have liked, but undoubtedly, there are lessons to be learned from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And when we talk about good governance and transparency, those are things that we need to be serious about.
Yes.
And I think as a people, we are more and more demanding that, So in terms of a future, I would like to see the BVI, like I said, in a more robust light in terms of our economy and our investment in our young people in its totality.
Yeah.
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 I like to look at it as we have fallen forward.
It's a positive
So
way.
we have to look at it that way, and that we're
Yeah.
not flat out on our back with
Yeah.
no
Oh, no,
options.
no.
So I say we fallen
Yeah.
forward to get back up.
Yeah. So, I support everything that Don is saying, and it's definitely that in terms of where I see us now, we're still in recovery.
Yeah.
From 2017, we needed to have had a plan that we were working towards in terms of, again, the resilience, the more robustness, but especially from a social standpoint.
Definitely.
Because I think that is one of the key things for me now that I realize quality of life for everybody. So whether you're 2 years old or you're 82 years old, we have to start planning around, how are we impacting the quality of life of our people? Because they are the ones now that are going to do the businesses. They're the ones that are going to go out on a job and build the economy. So it's like once we are taking care of those needs, everything else takes place. And I think that for me is where the shift has to be as a community as well as from the government standpoint in terms of public policy. How are we focusing around quality of life?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to have a lot of projects, and I wrote this in a commentary the other day. It's like, we can have a long list of projects, but if it's not addressing things like, say, for example, right now, one of the biggest things that I saw twice, 2017 storms as well as with the pandemic, was the need for unemployment.
Yes.
People are still not working 18 months later.
People are still homeless.
And homeless since
Post-hurricane.
2017.
Yeah.
So it's like, whatever is needed in terms of the systems. Because I actually was thinking about that today, Dawn, that, when we have situations like, whether it's some type of disaster, whether it's man-made or even natural, that you are able to respond quickly.
Yes.
And that is part of good governance. You have to have a responsive system when it comes to your public service that gets up and gets in there and does what's needed for the people until it's done.
Yeah.
So we are definitely still in recovery mode, but I think we're in a good place from a mind standpoint where we're starting to realize a lot of things. So the Commission of Inquiry brought a lot of insight and revelation. I think in terms of just what governance is.
Yes.
And isn't. And again, you're able to now say, how do we move forward? So just like how yesterday we were saying, we need a plan.
Yeah.
And again, the plan has to be around quality of life. How are we going to improve the quality of life, not just for this generation, but for those coming?
But if I could, Cindy,
Sure.
on that same note, because I like to be fair, I think our resiliency as a people speaks for itself, hands down, from where we are now, from where we were in 2017. I think CNN reported that everyone died, or something to that effect.
We weren't supposed to be here.
Yeah, we weren't supposed to be here.
That
And
brings
then
up-
we had the pandemic, which I feel we have, for the most part, handled it very well. For the most part. So I just want to say, as a people, we have done some things good.
Yeah.
Some things we have done good. You
Yeah.
know, I had friends who said to me, they're shocked to see where we are as a BVI. But can we improve? Sure bet we can improve.
You popped a question in my mind as you spoke about resiliency, and this is a conversation that I had with one of my friends, especially when we had the flare up from COVID a few months
the
ago.
spike,
We
okay.
lost some people. I'm going to ask you two a question. Do you think that our resiliency as a people is a double-edged sword?
in terms of why this spike happened or how we bounced back from this
Yeah,
spike.
I'm not sure what you're asking there.
I think I understand where she's
The
going. you know.
way, or resiliency means that you adjust quickly.
Yes.
Okay. That could be a double-edged sword, which means that we adjust to things so quickly. It's difficult for us to kind of really embrace.
Or
Did the
appreciate
shift-
what happened. You
Yes.
mean?
Okay.
Yeah. We it's kind of let me say it the right way. It's kind of putting on this protection mechanism, and we move on quickly, and the pain is still there. For example, with the COVID thing that I was talking about, after a while, we just
Couple months later.
tuned out
Yeah.
of the deaths.
So
We kind of could care less again.
I don't know if you
that's
just
what I'm
said
saying. It's
yeah.
that's why I'm saying it could be a double-edged
Yeah.
sword because we
I
put
think
on this protection
I understand
mechanism
now
that
what
just pulls
what
us back
she's
from.
thinking of. I think it was more so complacency, and I
That's
say
the word that comes to
I
mind.
say it from the standpoint of I had just traveled actually in June, so when I came back, that's when I was like, wait a minute. I said, we have completely dropped our guard.
Yes.
You know, it's like the pandemic is still on. So it's something where, again, because we had a flare up, we got locked down, we had a certain normalcy of life, or I should say there was something
Yes,
that we
yes.
existed,
Resembled
right?
it,
But we got
yeah.
comfortable. And as a result of that, again, things are still always fluid, even if we're not conscious of it.
Yes.
So here it was, within 2 weeks of me coming home, we had the next spike. And for me, that was where I was like, yep, we definitely let our guard down and got comfortable with it. So it's like we had a shock to the system, so to speak, with this spike, because we realized, you know, that we actually got touched by it now,
Yes.
because we've been watching it on the news for over a year. And it was something where, again, we're finding that we're kind of letting our guard down again. So I think it's about the fact that, yes, we have that adaptability, but we have to be careful. And I think it's human nature where we tend to get complacent when things seem to have settled down.
Yes.
You know, so nothing's happening.
But Shaina, I'll say this
so
as
to
well,
speak.
right?
Yeah.
If we look at it from a mental health standpoint, it's very difficult and unreasonable to stay in a heightened state of anxiety and panic, you know. I remember when we had that, I lost friends, close friends, people I consider brother and sisters. And I came down with panic and anxiety attacks. I had to literally pull
Yeah.
myself, literally pull myself away, come off of Facebook. And so when you call it a double-edged sword, I don't know. I don't know if I would define it as such. I think sometimes what we need to do is really process and internalize what really happened so that we can learn. I think people are tired of the pandemic. You
I'm
know?
tired of the
Yeah,
pandemic.
yes,
For me, it
yes,
doesn't
yes.
exist
Setting in now.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
I
fatigue
shut
is
it out.
setting in.
Yeah. However, if we're going to learn anything,
Yeah.
which we must, you know, is that we cannot become too complacent, you know, and the things that have worked will continue to work if we implement them. But you know, you just can't. People can't stay in that heightened state
Yeah.
for very long for their mental wellness
Yeah.
or to just function day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's key. That's very key.
Okay. On that, we're gonna take a short break
Okay.
and come right back.
At Blossoms, our floral experts use their creative flair to design beautiful and exotic bouquets. We are the on-island wedding experts, and for boating enthusiasts, we can help you to add a touch of floral elegance, life, and color to your yacht, mega yacht, both locally and internationally. We've even worked with celebrities. At Blossoms, we continue to deliver smiles and watch our customers bloom.
Father Jesus, that line here long like church service.
Alright, do enjoy the rest of the day. Next customer line, please. Wait, hold on a second.
Yes, Sonny boy, come, yes, Sonny.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sonny boy. What on there? You must have cut fun topic.
It's okay. I'll take care of it.
What? No man to take care of me.
How may I assist you? You want top of power?
You want top of power?
Join the prepaid party with CCT and enjoy more affordable data plans, more top-up promotions, more savings with hero bundles, and more value for your money each and every Tuesday with Top Up Turn Up Tuesday. Visit a CCT store today or anywhere CCT Top Up is sold and top up your phone.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You want top of power?
Welcome back. It's a new season of Cut Deep. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you're just tuning in, I have two amazing ladies in studio with me, Mrs. Dawn Corea-Leonard. I have Mrs. Shaina Smith-Archer. I don't want to ever forget that. It's season 5, episode 8. I'm your host, Cindy Roseanne. We are happy to be back for a new exciting season. I want to welcome back Blossoms Florist as our support sponsor for Cut Deep. I want to thank those of you who continue to support this platform from behind the scene. Coming right back to you, ladies, I want to jump into, because I want to cover some topics with you guys, and it's good to, you're in the political space. I love hearing from somebody who I think is in tuned as to what's going on and just getting that other view on the ground. Let's talk about the cost of living. As I mentioned, that it's interesting. Sometimes students, when it has to do with politics, they inbox me or they call me. Somebody gives them their number and they're like, "Miss Cindy, I'm doing this project in school, blah, blah." And I'm thinking, I don't.
You're in the library now.
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, what should I say? But I know what to say, right? I'm thinking, okay, how am I place for information and reference? But somebody, a student inboxed me last night, he was asking me what are the reasons for the spike in cost of living, etc. So let's talk about the cost of living and the impact that is having on us as a territory. I know that there are outside influences and all of that, but let's talk a lot about the cost of living. People are struggling, and it's a conversation that people continue to bring up with me, so maybe we can address a little bit of it.
Well, I guess I'll kind of touch on it from where I sit in the Chamber of Commerce in terms of what's happening or what's been happening. And one of the key things for us to understand is that because we import majority of our goods, like 99%, you know, those prices in terms of cost of goods, they're not set by us. We can't really control that. So from, you know, middle of probably around, I don't remember, March, I remember conversations in the news where they're saying, oh, you know, we're seeing a little bit of inflation, but, you know, this is in the US. We're seeing some inflation, but we're not too sure if it'll be continued through the year, because basically no economist wants to get up in the middle of a pandemic and talk about, you know, inflation. And all inflation is talking about, you know, the prices go up. So on an annual basis, we do see some type of increase in costs. But what started to happen is because there were shortages in terms of supply. So like, say, for example, you know, when people talked about they couldn't get chicken. I mean, for me, I remember looking for, I think it was ground turkey. And, you know, you started to realize what it meant when they told you factories were closed. And because factories were closed, it means now that the supply has been interrupted. So what tends to happen is now that the cost for something goes up because it's in high demand and short supply. And we still have that happening out there in the global economy. So it's finally trickled down, I would say now, and hit our shores from even before summer. It was kind of exasperated as well to when there were some policy changes in terms of the port fees. Things like, you know, again, everything is imported, it comes in a container. So if container fees go up, wharfage goes up.
Everything goes up.
It's going to, you know, translate into consumer prices. And it's very hard to ask a business who has been operating below normal revenue for, again, over a year and a half to absorb all of that costs. So we know businesses did absorb some because of the conversations that we had, but there were certain things that just had to be passed on. And you know, it's even difficult, and it's difficult for everybody, because I don't know that nobody's going to be touched by this. Because I
Everyone
remember
is touched by it.
going to the store just yesterday, pick up maybe 6-7 things, and it was $60. And I was like, Mom, we got to start shopping on the sale days, because this is real, you know. And I was like, I don't know how families are making it, especially if they're no income, or they're like, you know, one parent is working, or if it's a single parent and they're not working. You see where when Family Support Network talks about, you know, the food bank is empty before it's even stocked. You understand why, and it's going to be even more challenging now, because the cost of food is probably like the biggest impact. Then there's gas, that's gone up. Electricity is the other thing.
Everything has gone
for
up.
me that I
It's a domino effect.
So you know, and again, businesses, they have to pay their electricity bills, so the cost of operating now has also been impacted. So there's this snowball effect that's happening, and it's going to be challenging for a while. And I don't know.
Do you think at this point, well, you touched on the different taxes that have been applied. Do you think there was any possibility that government could have held off on many of the different taxes that they implemented at this time, with the international impact, us adding to that, compounding the situation? Because to me, it leads to other things, right? Guys, when you talk, me, for example, I like to feed my children healthily. I don't really like to give them canned foods and so forth. So kind of what it does to it affects the health of the population.
It does.
Because when now you would have been able to give your children fruits and vegetables, you can't, because those are some of the most expensive things. You now have to fall back on canned foods and so forth. So do you think, what could the government have done
Well, I think
to ease the impact of the cost of living?
Well, we know that the changes to the fees were triggered because there was a need for revenue generation in terms of operating revenue. So we can appreciate that, and I don't think anybody could have foreseen.
Can I tell you I don't appreciate it?
You don't
Is that
appreciate
okay?
that?
No, because in a pandemic,
She segue.
one like COVID that affected the economy, where things shut down internationally, which would impact us, then we had to adjust our spending.
Yes.
And we didn't do that.
Okay, so that's the flip side of the coin.
So
That's the flip side of the coin.
So that's my side. Why I say, I don't appreciate it, because I think we could have done better.
Well,
so we don't feel what we're feeling.
I got you.
Yeah.
So the need was there as far as the revenue. And I understand that we could have probably introduced cost savings to create that revenue. That's one way to go about it. Or you could increase your fees as another way to go about it. The thing is, though, I don't think anybody could foresee, you know, what would happen 3 to 6 months out. What I think needs to happen now, though, is whether or not those changes need to be revisited. Because there was a big debate around, again, how the revenue could have been generated through different approaches from persons that used to work at Port Authority at one point, and those outside, you know, from a business standpoint. So it'll be good if it can be revisited. I was very happy to see, though, that the Premier did suspend the additional ones that were supposed to go into effect for January, because that would definitely overload the system. In terms
I think
of,
the system is overloaded.
Well, it would further overwhelm it. So that's definitely a positive thing in terms of holding off on that change, because it would only add, as old people say, put on top of put, and make things even more expensive in terms of the cost of living. So where those things need to be adjusted, I mean, it's a conversation to be had in terms of what needs to be happening, because there's so little in terms of the factors that we have under our control. Because even shipping, you know, the cost of a container went up
Astronomically, it's true. I know that as a fact.
You know, during this year, and it's like, and that's just the container. So then to put it on a boat, you still have to pay for that aspect of it and everything else that's happening. So
and the industries that are still impacted, like tourism.
But one thing definitely that has come to mind that definitely needs to be fast tracked is about local production of food.
Right.
So agriculture in terms of, again, you're talking about healthier options, more natural foods, that whatever we can produce, that we do produce. You know, because being able to get whether it's lettuce, onions, you know, your cabbages, whatever it is that we are able to produce, we need to make sure that we're doing that. Because again, there's short supply in the world today for the most basic of food products.
Yeah.
You know.
I think our population is small. I don't even think it's 30,000. If we pay attention, people are leaving our shores every day. So I don't even think it's 30,000. And maybe I don't know enough, but I can't see where we can't supply ourselves with some fruits and vegetables. I mean, I didn't grow up on American apples.
No, and we shouldn't. Why should we? We're a Caribbean.
We don't have to come up on those fruits. We have
seasonal
fruits
fruits and vegetables.
But you see the convenience.
We have vegetables. We have a lot of fish in the sea. There are a couple poultry farms here that produce quite a bit of chicken, and I feel like if government was really, I want to use the right, paying attention or bringing the right people to the table, I think we can get somewhere in terms of seeing how to feed ourselves, because we had this pop up in 2017 when we had the hurricanes. Every port around us was closed. St. Thomas was affected, St. Martin, Puerto Rico, everyone was shut. Which is a very bad thing for us.
Food security is definitely a priority.
It came up then, and here we are again.
It's something that definitely needs to be addressed, because if a country that doesn't have food security, that's a serious situation. You know what I said? I said, if God forbid Irma or Maria had hit, because Irma didn't hit Puerto Rico at the time, as you know, as badly as it had hit her. Maria did.
But Maria
so
came
before
a week
that,
later.
So before that, Puerto Rico was sending stuff over here, you know, and then they got hit, and so what if Miami,
that wasn't the case, right?
No, but what if Miami was hit? You know, and so that's a big thing for me. Food security.
It was very big. It made me. I panicked a bit when I realized all the ports around us were closed. Puerto Rico was the last one to close, but they were all shut.
Nothing was moving for a couple
weeks. They were shut. So
and I mean, the disaster mechanisms would kick in, but that's in times of disaster. If we look at the Bible, if I could, you know, Joseph stored up so he could have helped his brothers, you know, and rescue them when famine came. You know, so there's a lesson to be learned there that in times of plenty, it's important to store up and to save. But
and
you know,
I don't think we've been doing that.
I don't know if we've been doing it very well in terms of food security in particular. And you know, you mentioned
financially, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. As a territory, we're not doing it.
But not just as a territory in terms of the government, but in terms of individuals as well. You know, saving something.
Everybody.
The lesson across the board is there for all of us. But the whole thing about agriculture in the BVI really needs to be addressed. And that food security, it really needs to be addressed. I can't tell you that I have all the answers, but you know.
Well, one thing you could definitely see is that those in charge are not serious about it. I think people wanted to go there, but it's not a focus. And I don't understand why it's not a focus. It's not a priority.
It baffles me too.
Yeah, it's not a priority, and it's really
simple.
worrying.
No, but that's the problem. Sometimes we only act or react out of necessity. You see?
But we do that too much.
Yeah,
too
so
reactive.
you going back to the point where you made earlier, right? If we were still in a place coming out after the hurricanes where we were struggling to make sure that we kept food on the shelves, our behavior would have shifted in terms of priority, but we, shelves were full. Within a year, everything was back to normal.
You know what it goes
I could
back
go
to?
into the grocery store and pick up whatever I wanted.
You know what it
So
goes back to?
therefore, we kind of put it to the back.
What it goes back to?
It goes back to leadership.
Or resilience.
Uh-huh.
And we think that we can always bounce back.
It's
Oh,
always
everything
like-
good,
that's
man.
what it is.
Complacency.
Yeah, that's the complacency.
That
Taken for
double-edged
granted.
sword.
Yeah.
That's
the
double-edged sword.
complacency.
It's a serious thing.
And that's where too, Cindy, the shift for our mindset, to add to what we said earlier, one of the things I want to see us move towards is being more proactive and being progressive in our thinking. Let's not wait till we need something to go and have to do it.
You know what that would do for us?
Yeah, listen, 20 years from now, you wouldn't recognize the baby.
It's
You
true.
would not.
I'm just
It's true.
saying.
You
No,
would
it's true.
not.
That's
You
definitely a
understand?
fact.
That's how far in advance we would move ourselves, because again, you would be saying it is better to have it and not need it than need it to not have it. Because if I have, then I could probably help somebody else if
Exactly.
they need. But it's like things like when I watch the news today and they were talking about children starving in Afghanistan. Just 2 months ago, supposedly everything was all nice and rosy. And look at how things have just shifted.
Yeah. But we've seen that in consecutive events, and we need to start learning, or else
and we
we'll be in a
have the
bad state.
resources, I believe, we have the resources in the Department of Agriculture, but the political will needs to now get in gear and push. Because like you said, we have chicken farmers, pig farmers, fishermen, we have
it.
people still raising cows, goats. I mean, all of the meat when it comes to whatever it is we need, we have it here on the ground, but it's to scale it up to that place of, you encourage local businesses now. Like one of the things that came to my mind the other day, and I was going to say it in the meeting next week, but like tax holidays, if you start, let's say for example, you say to somebody who wants to go into chicken farming, I give you a tax holiday for the next 2 years on your payroll tax, so that you could take that money and invest, hire people, all of these things they go into building the economy to encourage it.
But Shaina, can I say that we call it a tax holiday, but we don't incentivize
so that would
local
be what that is,
companies.
That would be a wonderful
So that's what that would
be. We do not incentivize local companies.
And we have to start.
Yeah. Another thing I think that we really need to start looking at is diversifying the industries, and the economies, so that we realize that these both events that we had, 17 and 20. I think I don't have an economic background, but from what I see here as, a citizen, somebody who lives here, we definitely need to start working towards that. We have a whole marine industry. Or expand
on what we have.
Expand on what we had, but we need to diversify though. We need some more, we talk about 3 pillars or 2 pillars.
We do.
We really need to, we have our waters are clean for the most part. People come and exploit them. We need to capitalize on that. The marine industry that we boast about, sailing capital of the world, we need to capitalize on that as a people. All young men need to be out there learning how to be mechanics, marine mechanics, and all the other things that
expanding on what we have.
I thought you meant the industries, but when I say industries, the specific industries, the major ones that we have. But yes, we do have things that we can expand on, that we can tap into, that we can innovate, and capitalize on it, and still just diversify.
I think the BVI has a lot of growth
potential,
I
definitely.
tell you, if we got progressive, we gonna recognize.
I watch it all the time.
I had that same thought, Shaina, that you just, what would we look like? And I have a vision for what we would look like. But we really have to be intentional about some of those things. I know we got a lick from the pandemic, obviously. 2 years.
But how long are we gonna lick our wounds?
No, well, we're still in recovery. We're still in recovery, and it took some resources. It took some resources. you talk about licking wounds, people mentally still ain't ready to carry on though, you know, and those are some of the things too.
Because we're still licking our wounds. And when I say that, our leadership is still licking the wounds and not figuring out how to take us from here to here.
Okay, you're talking about planning.
Planning, yes.
Yeah.
Well, it always comes down to planning, but I say it just like that.
Yeah.
Like, is the Ministry of Health focusing on the mental issues coming out of the pandemic, or they're still concentrating on COVID numbers? That's what I mean.
Got you.
Yeah.
So I want to, we got 15 minutes. I want to segue into education. That's a big topic, and there are other things that I want to, let's do this.
One word for you on that one.
Should we segue into education, or we know what we need to happen there?
Education is a big one.
It's a big one.
Yeah. I think for me, it's like two parallel things happening, I guess, at the same time. Part of it will be reform. So we know there are things that need to change. A key thing for me is around the curriculum. Because again, talking about, you know, are our kids being educated about financial services? Are they aware of the career opportunities that we need to train them for and those types of things? And putting those things in play, as well as looking again towards the future. So when we talk about the marine industry, those are new things now that we need to start to decide. When we talk about, I think the second thing for me would be like a vocational institute. Yeah. Right? We tend to talk about the trades, but to me it's bigger than that. This is something where if the kids don't want to get what we call a liberal arts education, so you know they're not following doctor, lawyer, those types of things. That they could decide from early.
It's okay.
Yeah, they could decide from early they want a career as an electrician.
Yeah,
and
but be certified.
We
have the qualifications.
Exactly. So we put them on a track for that, and that they follow through that to the highest degree. Yes. Because, you know, those are the people right now when we think about it. I remember when we were in school, because we used to look at it, we had 2 high schools as far as I was concerned.
Really?
Yeah, because when you have level 40 and 41.
Okay.
You treated them differently. When now come around, the electrician is making more money than people who might have gone into arts and now just has an office job. You know, so the attitude towards the vocational studies.
I remember despising that whole system.
Yeah, that's
and then I built my house and realized how much. I'm not sure.
The system is still
I think there's been a shift, but it's still there to some degree. I have to look into it because that was one of the things I was concerned about the other day. Because I was sharing to somebody, because my brother graduated from level 51. He had to take the GED when he tried to go to a U.S. college because it did not recognize basic CXC as well as 41 or 51, whatever that meant. You know, because for us here, we have to think about what does this mean in the international marketplace, you know, and those types of things, so that we're not setting our children up for failure.
Right.
You know, so those nuances
or discouraging
in the
them.
system.
You know, because it's okay to be an electrician. I built my house and realized how much you have to pay an electrician, a plumber, you know.
And you can't get around them.
No.
Exactly.
You can't. And I think that's like one of the big mistakes that we've made, frivolizing those markets, and like a lot of our boys sit on the street now because they don't feel like that's a job they can take, and they're not suited for office. So where do they end up? On the block?
And it's not just our boys, you know. My daughter, she wants to do some other things that don't necessarily require her to have a degree, and she can be a very successful entrepreneur doing what she wants to do, you know. And I had to tell her it's okay. Yeah. You know, we might have our own ideals for you, but you have to know what, you know, and support. Yeah. You know.
Exactly.
Can I tell you how I have no ideals for my children? Okay. Like zero.
Just letting them be themselves.
They just need to be good citizens.
Okay.
That's an ideal.
Yeah, that's an expectation. Yeah.
Well, I mean, good citizens.
So you kept it simple.
Well, not ideal. Just be.
Yeah, that's just expectation.
Yeah, person.
Yeah, that's an expectation.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
With some guidance.
Yeah. Ain't nothing like when they throw those words in my face, but they'll be fine. So we have 11 minutes, and in this 11 minutes, we're going to talk about an independent BVI. We're going to talk about where does the conversation need to be, and that's an overall conversation on the BVI, where we want to be, or what does the conversation need to be look like, sound like from the eldest
Top
to
down.
the youngest.
Well, I think we need to define what that looks like, and we need to talk to the people and see if that's the will of the people. If that's, we need to have conversations at every single level in our society to understand what it's going to mean for us as a people. How do we get there? You know, so that we can be a sustainable BVI. And we don't have countries coming after us to take us over. I mean, that could still happen very well. You know, that could still happen.
Yeah,
but
I think stranger things have
but
happened.
there's so many things that needs to happen that aren't in place right now. A lot of that needs to be in place. Things that needs to be answered, but more so our infrastructure.
This one looked like
Or
it touched your
secure.
heart.
Oh, this is near and there to me.
The question and she was in it like.
No, this is near and there to me. I am not saying no to independence, but I think the only thing we need to be talking about now is how do we get there? Do we want it? What it looks like? You know, what will it mean to the people, to my great grandchildren? You know, what will it mean to them? How sustainable is it going to be? How are we preparing for it? Cindy, it is there to me.
That's key.
I got all my kids here for a reason. You know, this is home. I was born here. My kids were all born here. And we need to have those conversations across the board. No government can make that decision for the people. It must come from the people. The people must want it. You know, I admire Barbados on a lot of levels. I'm not going to go there, right? But I think they've earned where they are now, and they've put things in place.
40 years later, right?
Yeah,
50.
50 actually.
50,
Yeah.
okay.
And you know, they've put things in place. So this isn't something that you take lightly.
It is not, and I think that personally, I'm not attacking this administration, but I think they take it very lightly. And they have a very light conversation about it. Oh, we should go independent. Well, I mean, as a leader, you shouldn't throw that out there like that.
Why, the question of why is what for me needs to be answered, because even if it's put out there, you need to explain to me why. Because is this about just coming out from under the UK and being able to make our own decisions? But it goes right back to what you know, we've been saying earlier. What's the plan? So the conversation for me needs to start first off with, let's fix what we got. Make sure that's working good. And sit down from there now and say, as part of the 20-year plan, what does our change in political status look like? So whether it's free association, it's independence, or it's what's that the other one? Integration, right? Or something of our own making, because that's something where the UN basically has said, if you guys want to construct your own relationship essentially with your sovereign power, it's up to you. As long as it's something where, again, the people have signed off on it and everybody involved has agreed, then that's how you recognize.
And we have the plan, Shaina. We have to have a plan on how we're going to get there.
And it has to be a part of that bigger plan, because if the 20-year plan says that, no, we could stay in this, but this, and this needs to change. So those are the things you negotiate in the next constitution, right? And then you start doing the tangible things now in terms of health, education, physical infrastructure, environment, all those different sectors that will go along to get us to that place. But we definitely have to pull back the throttle. Fix what we have first, because again, this is where the COI can be the lessons learned register that we call in projects, that these are the things that we need to correct over the next 3 years, maybe even shorter. And then as part of that process now, you use the system now to say, all right, 10, 20 years from now, where do we see ourselves? And if we say we see ourselves as an independent country, how do we get there?
We need a plan. We need to have a strategic
plan. You can't bypass
that. Exactly, as to how we get there.
Bypass that. No. So we're not ready for a constitutional conversation, again, until we're able to say, you know, this is why and where we want to get to, and then start putting out on the table, okay, so every 5 years we are looking to get this far.
We set goals, incremental goals, and we make sure that we achieve these goals along the way, if that's the will of the people.
Can I say that I think this is why I find what is happening is disingenuous, and I will call any of our leaders, and that is the present ones and the past ones, because I think that it is irresponsible for us or leaders to talk about colonialism and white agenda and this and that when you're not going to come out and say, well, we've had the conversation about more self-determination, further self-determination with the UK. And the UK has outlined certain things for us if we want to consider that path. Because at the end of the day, they're responsible for every single citizen and resident in the BVI. If that is what they want, we don't have a problem, but here is a structure that you need to consider. And a big part of that structure was setting up good governance legislations and the institutions and structures that go with those legislations. And if you really think about it, both our administrations have refused. If you really look right now, our first bit of good governance legislation was put on the table after the COI was announced. That said something to me. That said that, God, they ask us to do this so long, you know. They might blow stuff up now. Let's at least put it on the table and, you know. So that has been a big part for the UK. You want us to, you want to have more self-determination. Look at putting this structure in place. And she hasn't done it just for the BVI. She has done it for the overseas territories as well, because Cayman has good governance legislations and all the structure that goes with that, and independent offices and so forth that you can go and report an issue happening and so forth. Why did it take for the And I think that that's one of the follows that the governors, it's not priority.
No?
That is not priority.
But that's what I'm saying. It wasn't a priority. So that's why it didn't happen before. So the COI made these things priorities. So they all pop up.
But Cindy, you're saying
let's stick with the word priority.
You're saying that the UK is mandated that these things are in place, right?
It did.
Yeah, but as a people, as any government
we should
want
that. We should want that. That's why
definitely.
I said she wants to go with the word priority.
Well, it wasn't
I'm
a priority
let her
for
hold
us.
on to that.
Yeah.
I don't think priority is the word. No,
Well, it was.
Priority isn't. The
Okay,
word.
so let me throw something else in there too along with that, because you just talk about what the UK's role is in all of this. Right? And I think one of the things that I'm disappointed with is it says to me that even the coming out of the COI, it exposed that there are a lot of things that the governor's office or FCNDO were responsible for. Because I remember when I was working in the Ministry of Finance, every year they came in and they did visits. Every year they're checking on the system, seeing how things are working. Whether or not recommendations were made or this was just a report to say we were here and this is what we found, I don't know. However, I would like to think certain things should have been suggestions, but certain things should have been requirements. Because
how you think that would have gone though?
What, to say if it's required? But we always talk about, or this is always a big conversation about who's responsible for the civil service, who's responsible for the public service. So who's responsible for the public service, when they get these requirements or suggestions, need to make sure that they happen. And if whatever role or responsibility the elected government has to play, because primarily it means you're funding the thing anyway, regardless of who's responsible, because that argument is mute in my eyes. Because again, we're sitting down having the budget debate, well, not the debate, the Standing Finance Committee, about funding the public service. So you have a responsibility to play as well, because depending on what we fund every year, departments are either going to get better or they're going to stay the same.
Exactly.
Or regress even, you know. So
I believe that, and that's my personal belief.
You know what I would like, before you move off of that, what I would love to really hear is what happened in the meetings last week at the joint ministerial
what do you think we'll get an
council.
update when they come back?
Not that word.
Okay. So,
but those are the things.
We have to be hopeful. These are the things that we need to demand happen.
Those are the things where
absolutely agree.
Those are the things where, for me,
agree.
both the governor and the premier need to come out
and report to
say
the people. Yes,
what we agree to, what we discuss. This is what we expect to see differently.
As part of good governance.
As part of good governance.
I agree. You know what I feel? I personally feel that the UK gives her territories a long arm
To hang themselves.
not to hang themselves, but to govern yourself, to show that you can do this. And there's also, I think there's always also a fight between the UK and our leaders. And I understand it.
It's a power struggle.
Right,
Yeah.
a power struggle.
A power struggle.
But
That's all
at
it
the
is.
same time, I think that our people need to do what's best for us, and I don't think that has been happening.
As far as making ourselves priority.
Yes, and I think the UK has governed with a very long arm, and I think that arm has shortened, and I know people don't want to accept it, but the COI is here because Virgin Islanders have asked for it, and they could no longer turn a blind eye because a lot
which
was
says
happening.
they've been seeing stuff. Eh?
Well, they have, and I believe, and again, any other administrations can come here and say that no, Cindy, you got that wrong. But I believe the governors have been discussing these good governance legislations and certain things that should be in place, and I believe they ignored it. I believe that the governor, Gus Jasper, thought that Andrew would work with him closer to achieve these things. And I believe Andrew promised him that he would work closer with him. And when Andrew got in, there was a different ball game because Andrew has the premier has his agenda. Which is not the people's agenda, which is unfortunate. But we are out of time, and I wish this conversation could have gone longer. People always say to me, Cindy, by the time
you can always come back.
When it gets heated, you're gone. But 1 hour goes really quickly, especially when you're talking politics. So I want to thank you, ladies, for being here with me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for giving us that 1 hour and for sharing your hour with my listening audience. Thank you for tuning in. Tonight, this season is going to be an exciting one, although I'm about to wrap it up in 3 more episodes. We have some great topics, discussions, and guests for you. And so I ask you to tune in every week with me and have a great evening. Thank you.